Hello, investors. It is Connor Bates, Associate Portfolio Manager with Revere Asset Management. Today is Thursday, July 11th, 4:47 p.m. Eastern Time, coming to you from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, with tonight's Revere Roundup Daily Market Insight video. Market state continued to be in an uptrend, and if we look over here at the GROTECTION gauge, market leaders, we still have the green arrow, but we're adding the yellow sub arrow, some 3-4 bar breaks on some of the tech leaders and some bearish engulfing candles. And I'll get into those charts later on. Short term, we have the green arrow as well. Yeah, we saw breadth expansion today with IWM, MDY, all getting back above this 21-day, which is a step in the right direction. Medium term, we have the green arrow as well, seeing small and mid caps hold above this average. And then long term, this is our 200-day simple moving average. We have the green arrow on that as well. So what happened today? We got a cool CPI print this morning, and this prompted a big gap up for small and mid caps, and they continued all day while the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ reversed and closed the day red, and it was a trend down day for semiconductors, big tech, and character change for those for sure. So here are the final numbers. 21 over 21 list was down 0.98%, 7 green, 1 neutral, 13 red. BIG8, this was the big loser on the day, down 3.89%. RG8 up 1.15%. And then FFTY, which is a good growth leader proxy, also finished the day down 0.57%. S&P 500 down 0.88%. RSP, this is the S&P 500 equal weight, up 1.21%. Really good to see. QQQ down 2.2%, equal weight down 0.44%. Dow Jones pretty much neutral, up 0.08%. Mid caps, big day, up 2.43%. And then Russell 2000, huge day, up 3.63%. And if you've been watching the videos, you probably haven't seen the Russell green with the QQQ red in a while. And the Russell outperformed the NASDAQ by 5.5% today, and that's the largest spread on record. So huge divergence today. 60-40 down 0.06%, and in-house GROTECTION down 0.75%. So let's get into the inter-asset correlation, pull up MarketSmith, and we'll start with the S&P 500. So we closed above the 8 EMA, and this 5550 breakout level continues to hold, although we did have a bearish engulfing. And I'll pull up an intraday. So we gapped up a little bit, and we rallied off the open, and then it was just a trend down day for the whole day. But overall, nothing too bad as of now. QQQ, this is a 4-bar break to the downside, closed right under the 8 EMA, and same thing. Really no, right off the open, just pretty harsh selling all day long. Dow Jones, this outperformed. This was up 0.08%, and this looks pretty good. We've been talking about this little pivot on the right side here. All the moving averages are bunched together with a power of 3, and this is a nice base. This was the first pullback, second pullback, and now it's getting really tight on the right side. And maybe we see this RS line hook back up and see some outperformance in the Dow. Mid caps, this was another huge highlight on the day, something we've been talking about for a while, right? So we finally got this downtrend line break. We have the RS line breaking this downtrend line back above the 21-day on this RS line. And, you know, we've been looking for this for a long time. So maybe we start to see this outperformance from mid and small caps. And today definitely showed that. And if I pull up an intraday chart here, you can see gap up off the open, gap and go, trended up all day, closed high of the day. Really can't ask for more. If we look at this weekly, this is a big cup and handle. So every time frame's looking really good. Great performance today. So this is really good for breadth expansion. Russell 2000, same thing. Finally cracked this downtrend line that's just been a very tough resistance. We're seeing that RS line break this downtrend line back through the 21. So that's indicating we might start to see some outperformance from the Russell. Similar story, gap and go. And if I pull up the weekly, this is about as textbook stage 1 base breakout as you can get. And you know the saying, the bigger the base, the higher in space. So we'll see if that materializes, but overall, weekly looks great. Finally trying to get out of this range, and we can start to see small caps work. The VIX, so only up about 0.5% today, and actually surprising given the move in the NASDAQ and the S&P 500, but it's holding this floor for now. And I forget the stat, but we've gone an extended amount of time without a huge burst in the VIX. Dollar, big breakdown back below the 200-day moving average, and this is great for small caps. Gold, commodities were another highlight of the day. This is a really nice base. We're getting that RS line starting to hook back. So this is another area of the market that could start to outperform. And if you look at the weekly, this is a textbook flat base. So definitely gold is something to watch. Gold stocks, GDX, big breakout here, super strong on the day, and kind of traded like IWM. Had that sharp pullback off the open and then started to trend up. And I'm going to pull up a monthly here. When you zoom out on the bigger picture for gold stocks, they're breaking out from a multi-month downtrend line, falling through to the upside, and some great action in this area of the market. Silver, we own SLV, continues to act well, up 1.85% on the day. And once it cleared that 2742 level that I was talking about, it's really followed through nicely. We'll look at the weekly. This has got, forming a nice cup. So the first base after a big break from a consolidation, you expect that to resolve to the upside. And that's kind of what we're seeing here on silver. Bitcoin, still lacking momentum, rejected this moving average here. And this is kind of the undercut level of the base and still struggling to get back over. BNB, broad bonds, this gapped up nicely today, holding above all the moving averages. TLT, same thing, holding above all the moving averages. And starting another big downtrend line here. TYX, this is the 30-year, big breakdown today, and seeing that in the rally in bonds, this is positive. And then TNX again, this looks like it wants to head lower. Rejected the 200-day on that rally, breaking lower out of this bear flag here. So this is positive. So let's pull up the tape. So I mentioned that news. We got that cool CPI print, and that sparked the rally for small caps, although BIG8 reversed. We got some sentiment updates. The fear and greed still in neutral at 52. The AAII ticked up quite a bit, up 8 to bulls at 49.2, and then bears down to 21. And then the NAM exposure index cooled off a little bit, back down to 93. Day count down 1, but still 8 days above the 8 EMA, 28 days above the 21 EMA. And the action today, right? So we had we opened higher, 56.42 was the high of day, and then we just trended down. And there wasn't really many relief rallies for the S&P 500. So sector-wise, so we got that breadth expansion day. And the leading sectors on the day, we had home builders were up big, solars were recovering. A lot of the theme of today was the rate sensitive sectors. So solar was another one. Regional banks were very strong today. Mentioned commodities, silver, gold were strong. Real estate, biotech, and then mid caps and small caps. And the big losers on the day today were clearly tech and semiconductors, and I'll cover some of their charts in the video as there were some nasty reversal bars. So in-house, we sold Amazon. I'll go over that chart as well. And, Bezos has a lot of stock to sell, and 200 is this price. And if you look at the price action, it's pretty dang clear that he's selling every time it gets to 200. So we sold that for a small gain, as probably he needs to sell for that to get into gear. Bought TNA as small cap starting to outperform, hedged with QID, and then we added to RSP as well, as we're seeing equal weight mid cap, small caps acting well. So bottom line, strong breakout in small mid caps, big tech reverses, and then we have PPI on deck tomorrow. So let's get into some charts. So let's go over some of those sectors I mentioned. ITV, this is the home builders, huge day today, up 6.2%. And this had a clear downtrend line. It broke, gapped above the 50-day moving average. And if we look at some of the names, DHI, strong move today, Toll Brothers, and then Lennar. So this is definitely names to keep an eye on if this sector gets further rotation. Regional banks, very strong day. This has got a really nice looking base, and it had that power of 3. We talked about that setup a lot, but when you start to see the moving averages get extremely tight, that could be an indication that the asset, the stock, is ready to make a move, and we got that expansion today on regional banks. KBE is another. This is the bank index. Just big base breakout. This is some notable price action. XBI, this is biotech, another rate sensitive sector. We've been mentioning this 95 level, finally got through it and falling through to the upside very nicely. And then so IWM, IWO, MDY performed today, but there was still some weakness in some of the leaders. FFTY paints a good picture for that. And you can see this was down 0.6%. And just struggled today. It's coming back into the 50-day, but we'll see how this acts. And then, so let's look at the big tech names, because those were the big losers today. Apple, bearish engulfing candle, still holding above the 8, looks fine. Amazon, so we sold this today, right? It just cannot get over this 200 level. If I'll pull up a 60-minute, you can see every time it tried to rally above, it just keeps getting rejected. And this probably overall looks good. 191 is a key level to watch. That was the base breakout spot. So maybe once Bezos is done selling, it can get that volume through 200. Microsoft, sit back right into the 21-day. Meta weak today, down 4%, retesting this breakout spot. NVIDIA, you can argue this is confirming the lower high here. This is something to watch, but this was a 3-bar break to the downside, coming back into the 21-day. And this is going to be your key proxy for semiconductors. And so if we look, a lot of weakness in this sector today. Micron looks like it's forming a bear flag here right off the 50-day, was down 4.5%. If we look at ARM, another one pulling back pretty sharp today, down 7%, but still holding above this breakout spot. And you got the 21-day right here. LRCX, this is another one. This was a 5-bar break to the downside. And then we can look at Avgo, held up a little bit better, but overall, a lot of weakness spilling into this sector. Google, down 2.9%, coming back to the 21-day. And Netflix was a big weakness today. They say your risk is always to the 50-day, and this is right back to the 50-day pretty quickly. It was setting up this nice consolidation, but as you know, from failed moves come fast moves. So this is coming back down. And then Tesla had some robo-taxi news and a very sharp decline today, down 8.44%. And you can see This was right when the news was announced. And on the other side, this was positive for Uber. As you can see, it popped on that news and trended up for the remainder of the day, and that was good to see. And so I'll pull up FNGS. This is another proxy for the big tech, and this was a 5-bar break to the downside, and things started to get super extended. On the cues we mentioned, when you start to get to yesterday, we were 8.7% extended from the 50-day. And historically speaking, when you go and look back, that's can be often a time where the markets pull back via price or time. And today we got it via price, and now we're only 6% extended from the 50-day. So definitely worked off some of those oversold conditions, and we'll have to see if it comes into this 21-day, how it reacts. And then SOX is another one I want to pull up. This was this has been a huge mover, and this broke out over 260, fouled breakout, coming back in. So we'll have to see. And for this sector, we obviously want to see NVIDIA start to perform. But there was some relative strength. So some names that outperformed today, ELF. This one was up 4%, strong, forming a nice base here on the right side. ESTC, this is a software name. This is breaking out through 116 and looks very strong. Cart, this is Instacart. This is recent IPO, and this was up 3.7% and testing this, closed above, testing this 34.73 level. Generac, we've talked about the thesis with this one is with the hurricane season, this could get some momentum, strong day, popping back above all these moving averages. Carrier, this is one that we've owned in the past. It's had a super strong day. It's starting to break out from this flat base. If we look at this monthly chart, huge breakout recently and falling through to the upside. And on the daily, this is a really nice looking base. And Weatherford, this is probably the best looking oil name that I'm seeing right now. And this has got that power 3 setup as well. All the moving averages are super converged, and this is coming up on the right side pretty nicely. So good to see different names from different sectors starting to work. And then I'll just bring up the Uber daily as well. This shook out to the 50-day yesterday and popped right back up. So now it's into that, 73.6 highs. We'll see if it can take those out. So I wanted to bring up some breadth charts as well. So this first one, this is above is the chart of the NASDAQ composite, and below is the percent of stocks above the 20, 50, and 200 day. So although the NASDAQ stretched, like I just mentioned, we're seeing that breadth expansion. The percent of stocks above the 20-day just broke out today. Now 63% are above. The percent above the 50-day breaking out as well, 50%, and then the percent above the 200-day, 46%. So seeing more participation today. And another, the new highs, this was pretty notable. They exploded today despite some of the big tech leaders pulling back. Under the hood, it was great action, obviously led by IWM, but we got an explosion in net new highs today, and this is one of the highest levels we've seen in months. So that's positive. And then the last one is the NASI, and this is hooking back up. This is on a buy signal. RSI got pretty oversold last week, and it's hooking back up into neutral. So that's indicative of, a positive trend. And as you can see, it's all the way down here. This has quite some room. So we'll see. And then last, I'll just end this with another chart of IWM and a couple of things to note. I mentioned that 5.5% difference between the NASDAQ, that was the largest spread on record. And a couple of things to think about is that could potentially be igniting this move is, number one is the sentiment for small caps has been horrible. It's been in a sideways trading range for months, as you can see, but today was changing character. up 3.6%, closing high a day, 52-week closing high. And number two is positioning wise, people are pretty short the Russell. This has been a good short for a lot of fund managers. And so if this starts to get into gear, they'll have to cover. And then the other hand is if big tech takes a rest and this is what works, they'll need to get exposure into this index, as the underperformance could get big. So we'll see if this can continue tomorrow, but overall super positive and good volume. So we'll just keep taking it day by day. So that's going to wrap it. As always, like to hear from you. My email is Connor@Revere Asset, and you can reach out to Dan or Don at revereasset.com. Phone is 855-REAL-WEALTH. That is 855-732-5932. And if you're interested in becoming a client, please reach out. And with that, I'll wrap it for Thursday, June 11th. This is Connor Bates with Revere Asset Management, telling it like it is. Thanks for listening and have a great evening.